Fighting hard, family torn apart. Whispers tearing lives, hearts raw scarred. Judges grinning, deals in shadows locked. Case workers speaking truth they've mocked. Gunning on for justice, rage intense. Bringing kids home from this broken fence. Corruption weighs heavy, loss collapse. Kids go missing behind their maps. CPS stealing kids, no trace. Lies build walls, the truth they erase. Gunners howl, cuts through the air. He won't stop midnight, he'll get there. Dark hallways where the guilty play. Secrets hiding, hope fades away. A man with fire, voice like a storm. Breaking chains, reform, transform. Gunning on for justice, rage intense. Bringing kids home from this broken fence. Corruption weighs heavy, loss collapse. Kids go missing behind their maps. Family shattered, cries dulled by fights. CPS takes them in the dead of night. But Gunner speaks of brighter days, cut through the lies, light ablaze. Shattered cries dulled by fights. CPS takes them in the dead of night. But Gunner speaks of brighter days, cut through the lies, light ablaze.
Okay. You're saying they're brainwashing. Okay, you're saying these people that are experts in brainwashing is using the Department of Education to brainwash our children.
Yes.
What are they after? Why are they doing it?
Well, if you want to move a country from a free individualistic economy,
Which we have.
yes, or had,
okay.
to a planned economy, you have to do it through the schools. You have to dumb down and brainwash, change the attitudes and values. You have to completely, social engineering has to go on constantly, and many teachers know what I'm talking about. And people are going to say, well, when did this start? And who on earth ever did this? Why would a plan like that be allowed to be carried out?
That's right.
Well, then you have to go back to 1934, which I will do, and we have to go to the three-pronged fork, okay? So I do think that the watershed year, although you can go back to the early part of the century when the Rockefeller Foundation and the Carnegie Corporation were deeply involved in education, and that it was decided then that Carnegie would deal with the international part and Rockefeller domestic. They commissioned the American Historical Association to put together a study of the social studies, and they came up with lots of volumes, but I have one little volume, Conclusions and Recommendations for the Social Studies. And basically that little one is an original book. I wish I'd brought it with me. Too bad. But I don't even dare let it out of the house. It's so important. It called for changing the United States through the schools from a free individualistic economy to a socialist, collectivized, planned economy in the New World Order.
It says that in the book?
Yes.
And that book was written when?
In 1934.
By who?
It was the Carnegie Corporation paid for it. The American Historical Association put it together. And
can people get that book in the library?
No.
No?
No, they can't. They were very instrumental in getting the Elementary and Secondary Education Act passed, which, as I said before, changed education from knowledge, content-based, academic, to performance-based behavior. And from that time on, because that was necessary for what we're looking at now with school to work agenda is the planned economy is performance-based.
So they're training workers.
They're training
not
little
thinkers,
worker
not
bees.
leaders.
Exactly. At that time, you had a general, Buck Chisholm, a Canadian general psychiatrist, who was a very close friend of Alger Hiss's. And he gave a speech in 1945 to the World Health Organization, which basically recommended getting rid of the conscience.
Wow.
Yes. And he said we would do it through the schools. We would retrain the teachers to be little psychiatrists. He said it is an international system they're looking at. They're going to change the behavior of the children. They're going to change the teachers' training. They're going to do everything. He told them everything.
And they didn't believe him?
No, they just let, well, you know what goes on.
Okay. You're saying they're brainwashing. Okay, you're saying these people that are experts.
Good evening. Welcome to another edition of Gunning for CPS. I'm your host, Gunner. As you all know, every other week we deal with mental health. And it has many different perspectives from how it's used to better yourselves and how it's used against you. Now, a lot of times you guys will hear me say, when you're dealing with CPS, this is psychological warfare. What we're going to reveal tonight is how some of that came to be and how it affects us today and what we've seen it to progress to this. And as always, during our mental health week, my beautiful wife, Sharon, will join us again, a degree in psychology and early childhood development with experience in some of those fields, but guys, listen, life experiences, makes a difference. Once again, there was a saying that somebody had told me, you can never have an argument, or you'll never win an argument over a man with an experience or a person with an experience, because they've experienced it. It's firsthand knowledge to them, which our courts also recognize. But what do you think about what this lady was talking about, Sharon? I mean, where she has just blown the whistle off of, made the connection, talked about the public education. Now, I know you homeschooled, my kids went through public education, but we see this now all today of the teachers are not teaching. They have become miniature psychologists to define all these things and practicing basically medicine, a form of medicine, without a license. Um, please expand. We've had several conversations on this, you and I.
I'm excited to talk about this. This is like one of my favorite topics.
So I'm going to step back here for a minute, and I'm just loading and primering her up to just wind her up, to let her just shoot and go.
I know.
Because one of the things, there's misnomers between homeschool, private school, and public education.
Yeah.
And the differences for us. Now, CPS knows the differences too, because what is the biggest things that they attack? I mean, they don't like the private schools. But the one thing they hate more than that is what?
No, they don't love homeschoolers at all. We're targets. Because we're outside of the box thinkers. We don't live in their box, their society boxes, their system boxes, however you want to put that. We think outside of the box. So unfortunately, the way that the education system is run now, teachers are stuck in this situation where they have to go according to the plans that have been given to them. They are not allowed to deviate from their common core lessons. I do believe that that is changing, but up until now, they have been, they're stuck. Teachers are quitting every day because they can't do anything for these students. Now, you stick a teacher with 30 kids in a class, and they're stuck teaching these specific lessons. They don't have a lot of intellectual ability to go beyond what the lessons are that they're given. So there's not a lot of flexibility there for them.
Well, and she addressed that in there, that we went from knowledge
Yes.
to performance based.
Yes.
It had nothing to do with knowledge. It had to do with how you perform.
Well, unfortunately, the way that everything is working, teachers are often stuck with a classroom full of kids that are all from such different backgrounds and different like mental capacities and stuff. All this No Child Left Behind. They end up having to parent half the day and help kids learn how to act properly in a classroom rather than teach. And so that really puts some of the faster learners, or learners that kids that learn better in this system, will set them back while they try to catch other kids up. But honestly, the system and the way that we're teaching is not good for all students. Not every student's going to learn best from a textbook. They're just not. I believe.
And here's the thing too, is I guess the question then becomes, how do you see it then? I mean, other than the fact that the kids in public school are on public property, hence they are open to, there's zero protection there in public.
There's no protection.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes down to that, and then with homeschoolers, you have the Fourth Amendment that protects your home and the things that you can do.
Yes.
But why does, and then it makes you wonder, well, then why does CPS constantly push public education, or moving people from homeschool to public education? Is it more than the access is the question?
Well, partly it's a big part of it is the access, I believe, because they can legally go on public property at school and talk to your kids without your knowledge.
Yep.
They don't
Violating
even have
constitutional rights.
According to their training and the way it's set up, they don't even have to notify you in most states until up to 24 hours after they talk to your children. So if
which
they
is
go
still a constitutional rights violation, even though the state says that.
Correct.
That's still a constitutional rights violation.
Correct, but that's what they're working under. So if your kid happens to forget, oh, hey, somebody showed up at school to talk to me today, you have no idea until they notify you.
Well, you don't know if some of these CPS workers are actually going into the classrooms and having talks with children of, this is our little sponsor, or this is our abuse awareness month. So we're going to have CPS workers all in here. And then they start probing these kids. And this is the thing that they're not teaching, or they're not telling the parents.
Children or
hey,
teachers.
your kid's getting ready to be exposed to this person. Do you give permission because of what it pertains? Because they are who they are, and there's some legal issues to this thing when they
Mm-hmm.
do this, and the schools are not recognized. Well, they're from the state, and the state says that they have got this absolute power that the state has given them,
Yes. So
which in fact,
there's
yeah,
another
unconstitutional.
there's another level to that too. Teachers are mandated reporters. Any of your
Mhm,
school staff is a mandated reporter. So you also have that added
mhm.
uh, level of access, I guess you might say, because not only can they go talk to your kid without your knowledge, teachers are required to contact them if they even remotely suspect something's off.
So what you're saying, I mean, basically what it comes down to is because you send your kids to public school, and we're not against education. Please, guys, don't misunderstand. We are all for knowledge.
Oh, very
But
much so.
the issue is now your teacher has unadulterated access to your child, for somebody or multiple teachers do, to basically put them through if they want to. And I want you to guys to hear me over, and they go to school for what, about 7 hours?
7
That
to
they
8
can
hours.
take and for
It
seven
depends on the grade
hours
level.
interrogate your child from class to class to class from multiple teachers to get what they want.
Yeah.
With what? The combination of CPS and guidance counselors and principals and assistant principals. They will go, hey, we have a problem. We need to have a meeting. And then they get all the teachers together and say, hey, this is what we see. We want you to start questioning this child or digging into this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This is an invasion, one, of privacy. Yes, I mean, if there's something apparent, there's bruises, there's this or this, but you got to understand they're normal kids, and not every kid is normal. You will have a kid nowadays stay indoors and play video games, but what's the oddball kid is the kid that shows up with all the cuts and bruises because they won't stay inside and they won't quit climbing trees and they won't quit getting into this and this and that. That to them is not normal. That
It,
could look like abuse.
it can, depending on the level of it. I think that they are put through a specific type of training to be able to identify
But
certain,
once again, you know some of the training they
but
go through.
they're
It's a
not
scare
doctors.
tactic, though, is it
So
not? I
it
mean, the
can be.
videos they show them is worst case scenario,
Oh yeah.
and
Well,
that's
worst
what
case
they go
scenario.
after.
Well, okay, the whole big thing about like mandated reporting is when in doubt, call is basically what it is. So like if you're sure that something is going on, sure, go ahead, call. But when in doubt, you should also call. So err on the side of
Mhm.
caution. So that can become extremely problematic in certain cases, obviously.
Right. Well, I
So
mean, it goes to a constitutional issue, though, of the child too. Let's address that. If
yes,
that child does have rights in the Constitution and the United States government, the federal government says yes, your child has constitutionally protected rights, then why aren't those same rights respected in public school systems when they go to question and drill a child, knowing they're impressionable? They know that's a delicate phase of development within a child's life, to begin defeating them all this stuff. I mean, even Colorado's talking about now passing a law that if you don't support your transgender child, CPS will come take them and do this now.
hmm. Well, and I think it goes, I mean, different states have different situations. I did find it incredibly telling and amusing, not really amusing, but uh, being in one of the most allegedly constitutional states in the union, and our
Yeah.
child is only just now learning the amendments to the Constitution in his
Yeah.
last semester in high school. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a little sus.
Only after a lot of stink from a lot of parents, that woke up and realized our public education was actually failing our
Yes,
children and not teaching them how to write cursive to where they can't read the Declaration of Independence and or the Bill of Rights and or the Federalist Papers to understand why the Constitution is the way it is.
correct.
They eliminate and handicap and cripple. And what did she say on the video? What's they're designed to do? Cripple you.
Yes.
Sounds like they're succeeding from what we're seeing today.
Oh, they do. It starts even down kindergarten, first grade, second grade. They completely take a child's ability to imagine anything away. Like their imagination. Oh, that's
Line
the
up.
pet topic right there.
It's stay in a line. Tight line.
Yes. Kids have to stay in a line. They have to sit still in class. Okay, how many of you have seen or come across or have
Yes, I'm cranking her up for the audience. Yes, I'm cranking her up. She's getting ready to pop.
I would like to know who in the world has a 6 or 7 or 8-year-old who can sit still, okay? Like, this is cruel to do to these kids.
Well, now let's add the combination of big pharma meds of your kids all have ADHD and now do all the red dyes and everything else that they turn around and they say, oh, it's healthy for us. But we know because we've done the research of what those additives and those other things do. It changes your brain chemistry.
Uh-oh.
And now RFK's even made an announcement in the past 48 hours. He's going to get to the root of the cause of autism.
Well, if
you know where it's going to lead?
Down
the
that
food.
road, that's a really fun road. Okay, so here we go. We've got kids. They're getting up in the morning. They're getting ready for school. What do they eat for breakfast? If you're on top of things and stuff, maybe you'll scramble up some eggs, give them some good protein, give them a slice of toast, and out the door, right? A lot of times it's a bowl of cereal.
Cereal bars.
I've been there. It's no judgment. We've all been there. Even homeschool moms have been there. Get a bowl of cereal. I just can't today.
Well, we trusted it was safe.
But then we send them to school where they have to get through a whole morning off of whatever they just ate and maybe a snack. And then we send them to lunch. And what do they feed them for lunch in the school cafeteria? Carbs, junk carbs. Like, I don't know how many kids actually willingly
But
pick.
listen, the crap they put in that school pizza, man, if you went to public school, that was the shit.
I don't know.
Everybody loved Friday Pizza Day because everybody was trading anything you had for extra pizza. And you got chocolate pudding on that day, too. That wasn't right.
But then they go through a whole nother set of classes in the afternoon. By the time they get home, they're like ready to crash out because they haven't had brain food all day.
So,
and then they have to maybe get through dinner. Hopefully we've got a decent dinner because somebody had time to cook, but not always. And then they have to do homework. I mean, like,
more work.
It's a vicious cycle, and it's not necessarily anybody's specific fault.
So,
it's just, this is the cycle.
Let's deal with the misnomers of homeschooling. One, parents, they think, okay, I don't have time to homeschool because I don't have time to do 7 to 8 hours a day of schoolwork and everything else, just like the public educations do.
That's a myth.
Let's explain why.
So it's a myth that your kid needs to be in school 8 hours a day. Effectively, a child of elementary years can get through the amount of schoolwork that they would need to get through to stay on target, if you're going to stay on grade target, within probably 2 to 4 hours. That's it. 2 to 4 hours, they done. And then
now let's clarify that. That's actual book paperwork, this and that. Now, this is not, she's understanding concept. The idea of books are concept. Yes. Now, and this is where I think the difference, a lot of people misunderstand a lot of things. It's not that. The difference with homeschool that I've seen from the outside of my kids in public school is book work for homeschoolers is, this is the concept. Now let's get into the real world and see how this applies. That's where the learning begins.
That's another myth. None of us homeschool exactly alike, and there are many, many different options, and there is a wide variety of how we all educate our children. In fact, calling it school is probably a misnomer. It's education. So we tend to do a lot more hands-on learning. We'll do some book work, obviously, for some things that can only be taught through books, like writing and arithmetic. Kind of, sometimes you got to start with a book and then you kind of phase it into real life learning. It just depends. But ultimately, I guess I should say, if you're doing book work, a kid of elementary age can get through their book work within 2 to 4 hours. However, and this is where I didn't quite finish, our kids are learning all day, every day.
Hmm?
And they're learning in real time. Like, they're learning how to cook alongside mom. They're learning how to cut the lawn. They're learning how to go grocery shopping. Like, they're learning in real time, real life skills that they're going to be using the rest of their entire life.
Right.
And I know that this works because my kids are actually second generation. My siblings and I were homeschooled, and this is how we learned. So we had our book work in the morning, and then we do real life later.
Yeah. So one of the things I know when people say, well, what's this got to do with CPS and everything else? The concept is this, and this is where we're going a lot of this with Department of Education and everything else with it. Imagine people that, and she, if you'll notice in the video, she talked about secondary education. That was college, university, and everything else of how they're being programmed. Imagine somebody growing up in this system, believing everything that they were taught along the way as being truths or facts, and yet they're constantly being manipulated through these systems. And you don't even know what's going on, that you understand the concept of how easily and how well programmed they are to even still constantly receive the same way. In other words, they're taught or they're programmed to receive the information. In other words, the only way it comes through, or what we tell you is law. What we tell you is this. What we do is this. Believe the system. The government wouldn't do that. We wouldn't do that. We're not telling you to do anything illegal, or, hey, it's for the safety of the children, or it's all about the children and everything else goes out the window type mentality. Without the Constitution is meant to restrain the government.
Correct.
Elected and appointed officials and actors, not we the people, but to restrain them from oppressing we the people.
Correct.
That's why Trump defunded the federal education system, is because of this. And we've got another one for you. Matter of fact, we're going to take a short thing and let you guys watch this. You got to see this. This is that same woman, more in depth. Same, it's a little bit different talk, but more in depth of what she's talking about. You guys need to watch this and pay attention, because this is how they make CPS okay. And when you talk to some of the workers, they are completely oblivious of why this is wrong.
My name is Charlotte Thompson Iserbade, and I served as Senior Policy Advisor in the United States Department of Education under the Reagan administration, during which I had access to all of the most important documents for the restructuring of not only American education, but global education. And I'm also the author of The Deliberate Dumbing Down of America, which gets into all of this, gives the background of what I saw not only in the Department of Education, but as a local school board member. I was trained to identify the resistors to the sex ed, drug ed, alcohol ed, suicide ed, death ed, those good, smart Americans who realize that anything that has education hanging off the end of it is probably not what they're looking for. I was trained to identify those good people and to go up against them, and actually to go and try to get them to join us through the group process system, make them feel important, get them on a committee. And when that just blew my mind. I have to say, people often ask me, what is it that got you involved in education? Well, finding out what I saw at the local level certainly upset me. When I went and I saw that Americans were being trained to identify resistors, then I got pretty upset. And luckily, there was a big book that came with the in-service training called Innovations in Education, A Change Agent's Guide. And I was able to take that back home with me. Unbelievable examples of how to con the Christians and different people who are upset with what you're trying to do, how to bring them over to your side, case studies, true case studies of educators who had put programs in that normally, in a normal American town, nobody would want them. How did they manage to get them in? How did they con the people? And the other thing was, not only was I trained to identify the resistors, I was trained to go to the important people, high profile, highly thought of people in the community, with a Rotary and Chamber of Commerce, Garden Club, you name it, the different groups in our towns. Go to them and convince them of the importance of these new programs like sex ed, drug ed, I just mentioned all of them, and get them on your side, because when you can get the leadership in a community to go along with it, then the newspaper comes in and says, a committee's been set up with the head of the Rotary and this and that, and they're all getting behind this task force to discuss whether we're going to have a new sex education program. And then when Mary Jones, who ordinarily would think, why would we want to have a sex education program when we don't have any problems with kids having sex or anything? So she might be, concerned. She might be one of the resistors. She reads that her best friend, who's the head of the Garden Club, is on this committee, and she thinks, oh, well, hey, Mary Appleton is on the committee. She's heading it up. It must be okay. So I was taught really how to con the community. They always call everybody by the first name. You have to get very, affectionate with people, and you say, William, I'm so glad you've come to this meeting, and I understand your concerns about this program because, I've had other people. Usually it's the really bright people in the community who have these concerns. And would you like to join our group? The original program was funded by what would subsequently become my office. It was funded by the Office of Research in the U.S. Office of Education, because it was funded early on, about the late 60s. Still funded, by the way. And the money went to the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor to a professor by the name of Ronald Havelock. And he was the one that put together the whole training, the whole seminar, the book. And in the back of the book they admitted it, right in the back of the book, they had about 100 major change agents listed from all over the country. Some of them I recognize, some I still don't, but some I do. And so this was a very important project. And it was being carried out I'm sure, all over the country, not just where I was. This was in Searsport, Maine, this lovely little town on the coast of Maine, in the school there where the guy came in, the facilitator, not Professor Havelock, but a facilitator, to train us. And these were good people that were there. They were some of the teachers from my school, where I was on the local school board, principals, etc. Normal-looking Americans. You really ask yourself, they must themselves have reacted very much the way I did. That's why I've always had a lot of understanding for teachers that have to go through this stuff. I didn't have to continue going through it. They've had to, through the years, constant training, retraining, sensitivity training, break their values. Right, no wrong. You've got to have all religions represented, so, tolerant of everything, and because that's the New World disorder, excuse me. Professor Benjamin Bloom is probably the most important behavioral psychologist ever to live. I mean, maybe not quite as much as Pavlov and Skinner, but he really implemented the system in education in the United States. And he was the author of the taxonomy of educational objectives. And I know that doesn't mean much to us. It means a lot to teachers. They know. All teachers have to go through that, Bloom's taxonomy. And just to give you an idea of how blatant they are, Benjamin Bloom said the purpose of education, and I often say this to parents, really, listen to this. You think the purpose of education is reading, writing, and arithmetic? The purpose of education is to change the thoughts, actions, and feelings of students. And then he goes on and he says, he defines good teaching, and this is even worse from the parental standpoint, as challenging the student's fixed beliefs. And then, in some of his works that I have, that are in my book, a lot of this stuff is in it.
When he says challenge, does he mean challenge or does he mean change? Change their fix?
Yeah, through challenging. It's through challenging. You go up against them, and you change them. And you ask a good question, because then he goes on in one part of the taxonomy that is in my book. He says that he can take a student from here to there, from a belief in God or his country or whatever, to being an atheist and not believing in his country in 1 hour.
Did he do that?
Oh yeah, he does it. And I've seen it with students. I've seen it with young people. And they don't even know, and teachers don't even know. That's why if you talk to teachers about it often, they'll really have an awfully hard time dealing with it. And if you go up to a superintendent, an educational administrator, superintendent or whatever, and you ask him or her, have you ever been through sensitivity training? They'll usually crack up because they went through it. They're the worst, those programs. I've been through them. I mean, how can anything be worse than some of the ones that the regular classroom has? But they're the worst.
What do they teach the children?
To bring about change. They put them through role-playing, psychodrama, all these psychological techniques where they play the part of starving children, and the other one plays the part of a very wealthy industrialist child. And, you know, they bring about the attitude and value change through the emotions. You know how young people are. You know, they're naturally very altruistic, and they want to help, and they don't like to see poverty around the world. And so what they'll do is, just like I think I mentioned to you earlier, or I don't know whether I did, going into the teacher putting in the new social studies program in our community and walking through, taking the little tots through town and identifying big rich people's houses and small poor people's houses. That's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Getting them young and making them feel sorry for the people who live in the trailer across from the captain's house, because they only eat hot dogs, not steak. And then they'll do the same thing with Ethiopia or wherever, some third world country, showing them the children dying, and then they'll show pictures of our affluence. And what do you eat for breakfast? Oh, you have eggs and bacon and cereal and orange juice and grapefruit and everything. Yum, yum, yum. Do you really think it's fair? Common unity. That's what we call it, common unity. There's no role for the individual in the community, and for everything that goes on in the Soviet Union or communism is based on the community, the commune.
Super hydration keeps me 24/7 moisturized and smells like.
Well, without the
Fascinating.
Did you hear how they were taught how to psychologically manipulate
Yep.
not only teachers but children, and how they were doing it? And it's all out there. Now, she talked about that sensitivity training. And as she was saying that, I thought, wait a minute. Our military just went through sensitivity training
They did.
not that long ago.
I'm pretty sure doctors and nurses have to go through it. I'm pretty sure.
So this sounds to me of what the Constitution talks about is a set of tyrants looking to overthrow our government, we the people, and to enslave us. And they are exposing their tactics of what they're doing, of their tyrannical acts.
And of
And
course,
did you
it's
hear
going
how
to
she
start
taught them?
there.
Sweet talk them, put a little hand on the shoulder. Oh, first name and this and that.
No wonder I've never trusted something like that. That's funny.
But this is the same thing as caseworkers or investigators going through. That's right. We have the evidence of it too, of coercion to enter the home, of calling it how to gain entry into a home with difficult parents or difficult people. That is actually being taught to them as well as law enforcement. They are looking to enslave us and take us over, even though the Constitution says you can't do that. Well, the state says I can. Then your state is actively involved in treason and sedition against we the people. And your elected and appointed officials and actors are looking to enslave you. That is hard evidence enough of why you shouldn't, and they want more money. Matter of fact, when they I think on the Honey for Justice show, we were talking about where they showed this stepmother that had locked her stepson up in the upstairs bedroom somewhere, and he had to start a fire just to be rescued, and he was like 32 years old. And the only thing the CPS caseworker says, well, they were homeschooled. If we could just get into the home of these homeschoolers, we could have prevented that.
Well, they don't like us because they have to go through the parents to get to the kids. They have to, because they can't just walk on a public property and talk to a kid behind your back. They have to go through us, and they don't like that. And then
now you said there's other books out there about public history and public education, and who are they by?
John Taylor Gatto, he wrote a few books, the underground history of education and Dumbing Us Down are the two. Oh, and Weapons of Mass Instruction, I think. You can find them on Amazon or somewhere online in case somebody wants to look up more information or learn more.
Did you hear the other part too? I think that just blew my mind with it is how they get them to change their mind is by challenging your home belief system.
Well, yeah.
They are going after this is called, folks, there's a fancy word for it. This is called cultural degentrification. Mm-hmm. This is no different than Auschwitz and Nazi camps. No difference other than they're doing it to you physically, but more mentally, they're starving you and putting you in a prison. And they're taking away your culture, your family's history, your family's heritage, your family's stories. I mean, how many of your kids can take and have a conversation and tell you what their granddad did or their great grandfather did during World War II or during Vietnam or between this skirmish and some of the other major things? Or what can they tell you about some of their family and how they went through things such as the Great Depression or, the Roaring 20s? Or, hey, make it more relevant. You can turn around. Hey, what about the 60s and 70s, the baby boom? All this. Did you notice how that all played along the timeline, though, when she said it came in? Funny how that came inception, right? And there was the baby boom.
Yeah, so it was like late 30s, right? Early 40s.
No, she was talking about the 60s and 70s when she was talking in that thing.
Sorry, I was thinking something else. Yeah, no, 60s, yeah, right in there.
Early 1900s, yes, that's when it was inception.
Yeah.
But talking about the 60s and 70s, what happened right after that? The baby boom of the 80s.
Yeah, and the easiest way to change an entire culture is by starting with the children.
And she said it right there. Let me have your children. Matter of fact, I can't remember whether it was.
Actually, that's a tactic that's used by other people too.
Yes, I mean it's very well known for that. But there was actually one that wrote. Who was the? I'm drawing a blank. The father of he's also known as he's known as the father of socialism. He said the same.
Karl Marx.
Yes, Karl Marx says, "Give me your children, and I will rule the world."
Yes.
Hey, Sam.
Exactly.
Oh, by the way, hi guys, everybody in the audience. I know you guys go through everything else, but we'll just take it. And don't forget to hit the like and share on our show. And if you're on the YouTube channel, hit the like and follow, and it will let you go notifications when we go live. Some of the things that we had going on, it did get paused. It's not stopped. It just grew. Is all I'm going to tell you. It went big.
It's fine.
And this is the psychological warfare of some people. Like even the case that we were, I know that you're handling, it went from from this to now it's spread over like 3 different states because of where this one lives, where this one works.
4. I don't even know anymore. It just kind of blew up on us.
Well, this is how bad it is. And let me speak to this. And I know a lot of you guys out there are watching. You've seen a lot of things with Malibu, Dallas. And this is both her and I. The stuff that's going on with Malibu, Dallas is directly connected to our case. The same person that's accusing him of what is going on is the same dirty bar attorney, and we're not going to mention names on here, that has backstabbed, broken so many laws, including attorney-client privilege, to do what he's done, and then slandered a bunch of people to cover up his crimes, and is now using his affiliation with the bar to attack an advocate. So those of you out there that are talking mad smack about this man saying, oh, get him, either this and that, he has always been up front. It is on all his paperwork. He is there for educational purposes. It has been there from the beginning since I knew him. Matter of fact, when it came to the point, what did Dallas do when we were working with him, sharing information? He referred us to what? A federal attorney that screwed us over.
It's fine.
What does that tell you? The same federal attorney is now going after him because he failed. Tell me. There it is, guys.
I don't know what to tell you. We're going to fix it. It's fine. It's fine.
It's fine, because when the truth comes out and the evidence is put, because hearsay is one thing, the facts don't give a shit about your feelings. My big thing is those out there talking mad smack without knowing all the facts. I'm serving mustard for them crow sandwiches y'all going to be eating. And y'all need to learn that we need to work together. And this is just another tactic by CPS and this corrupt system to divide us and to make sure that we're against each other and turning on each other because they're scared. They are running so scared that Texas is changing a lot of their laws and everything else to deal with CPS, but they're not firing anybody. Talk about cycle. Well, you were bad. You broke the constitutional rights and committed several felonies, but we're going to put new guidelines on you and we're going to just keep letting you work in. What does that do psychologically to people?
Maybe they need to go to sensitivity training. No, I'm just kidding.
Yellow card. Yellow card.
I don't know. Jonathan says the cops go through it too. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, police probably go through sensitivity training too.
A lot of this is getting control of your mind between, and this is something I've had to deal with my son recently. He had a lot of emotions about something and this and that. But when I had told him about the facts of the case and that it didn't change anything, I says, I acknowledge your emotions, but that doesn't change the fact that it was right. It was the right thing to do. And he stopped for a second and got out of his emotions and used the other part of his brain that they manipulate you to go to, your emotions.
Yep.
Go to that logic part in the head. Stopped and goes, wait a minute. You're right. And that's not going to change the facts.
Actually, it's fascinating. The whole system uses your emotions against you.
CPS is great at manipulating. And if you don't believe that they're not, you just heard a lady up on there that was taught to manipulate your leaders. Did she hear who she targeted? The leaders in the community, this club, that club, get everybody that thinks and are concerned about these things and get them on a thing. And what do you see support for? I mean, we see support for, especially around here, is not so much that, but what other things are. The CAC centers. Oh, look, we're helping children and we're doing this to families and this and that. And then you come to the realization of they're all liars and you're working with a crooked enterprise to steal children.
Since we're kind of
we'll okay it
on that topic anyway, they use your emotions against you. Like they literally do things just to get you to react. And then they turn it on you to control your reactions. So I had this happen to me. I'm sure some of you have had this happen to you. They had me so darn tied up and mad. And my advocate who was with me was also mad. And one of us said something and he turned on it so fast. He's like, well, there's no need for that. Do we need to get law enforcement involved? Like he was waiting for one of us to attack him, to react in a violent manner in order for him to be able to bring in a cop under a reasonable, like, I mean, like it's right there so blatant in your face. I'm looking at him going
and again, not knowing the people because of who that person is, and I know who that person is. That's not her. That's not her mad or attacking. You just hit a trigger sensitivity right there, and that is not the person that
Mm-mm.
you take and do that to.
No, well,
And
I was
no.
mad too. I mean, they know how to twist up your emotions. They know how to get you angry. Have you ever heard that what do they say? Never fight mad,
Mhm.
because when you're angry, you lose all of your thoughts and all you see is red, so
Objectivity.
you're not thinking clearly.
Mhm.
And that's exactly what they try to do for you. And when you get all tangled up in your emotions like that and you can't think clearly, that's when they get you, because you're not thinking it through.
And the number one thing that they teach law enforcement, first responders, everything else, and even military, they mess with that fight or flight and get you to shut off your emotions to deal with the problem at hand. That is
Yeah,
one of the biggest difference for those that are on the front line dealing with some of these things. It's one
correct.
of the things. Stop and look at the facts.
I
The
know. I didn't
problem
realize
is
I had
some of
some of
them
that
have got
training.
so caught up in the chain of command that they have forgot their oath is their primary focus.
So, and that's another thing. Since we were talking about education, so you go through this whole education system from kindergarten up, and then you
Mhm.
go into secondary education, and you've already been more or less
Conditioned.
conditioned a certain way after you leave high school. Now you're going into college. Well, guess what they teach you in college? Well, they teach you how to be a mandated reporter, that you must be a mandated reporter, that
Mhm.
you need to look out for these people. And then they bombard you with a lot of the sensitivity stuff throughout class, especially if you're taking
Well,
psychology. Oh
and
my
you know
goodness.
what they tell you too? The other thing is the old saying is the harder you look for it, the easier it is you're going to find it.
Oh yeah. So, and it doesn't even matter like what classes. I mean, like, well, I took EMT classes, so we were taught mandated reporting. Nursing classes, we were
Right.
taught mandated reporting. Psychology, we were taught all sorts of fun things. Um,
So now let's wrap this up that you're out of college and this and that. And now you go to get a job and somebody says, listen, come be a social worker, come be part of CPS to help children and this and that. Now that you've had all this programming from a child all the way through secondary school,
mhm.
let's talk about what they take and they put them through and they give them this thing called a hero complex. Let's go into that a little bit.
Okay. So, hero complex, that's like, or they sometimes call it a savior complex, where that need for you to be helping somebody else or saving somebody else, but you're also getting accolades and you're getting like pats on the
Pat on
back,
the back. Yeah.
and
Oh, wait,
you're getting all the
incentive.
praise, the rewards. It's a big high. Okay, I worked with kids for a long time. Like when you
Now,
see
that
them,
video that Darren showed talked just about this. I want you guys to pay attention because she says, I'm getting all these things and this, and that, and I'm feeling doing good until she comes to the realization of, I've gotten really good at stealing other people's kids and destroying other people's families.
yes.
That's when but go on from there. I want to reaffirm that.
No, it's true. And that's what they tell you. My caseworker repeated it. I can't even tell you how many times. I'm here to protect the children. I'm here to help the children. I'm here to say, no, actually, that's my job as their parent. You're
As
stepping on my
parents and
toes.
constitutionally protected.
But,
Thank you.
his comeback was, thank you. So now you need to da 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 da. No, that's not where I was going
Twist,
with that.
twist.
Yes, exactly. So,
So if you're for the kids, then you need to help me since I'm your ally.
exactly.
Oh,
But they want you to see them that way because they don't want to be the bad
are you
guys.
sure
They
you
can't
didn't miss
they
something? Are you
can't
sure you looked at everything? I'm trained for this. Let me
yeah.
help you through this.
So the ones that I have talked to that have left it was very hard for them to go through the process of
Mhm.
realizing what they were actually doing and that they did not actually belong there and they were not actually helping anybody. Like that is a very, very, very hard thing to face. And if you are a
Wait a
caseworker
minute.
or
Wait a minute.
anybody
They
else who's
admitted
gone
the
through
fact
this,
they weren't helping anybody.
No, they're not. Unfortunately, not this way. They're not.
Wow. So they realize the concept of I'm not doing any good. I'm only
Mhm.
adding to the problem and or causing more problems to the situation because one, over 90% of the cases that are referred to CPS are not even criminal actions.
Yes, but think about it. The
Hmm.
majority, I won't say all of them because I can't speak for all of them, but I would guess that the majority of them enter into this life career because they genuinely do want to help. I'm sure not all of them, but I'm sure
True.
there are many of them that do. They are wanting to help. They do care. They do want to help. They do. And this is the way that they've been told that they are able to and that they can. And they're excited for it. And they want to. And then they start meeting resistance with parents. So now parents are the bad guys. They've kind of been trained that way anyway.
Mhm.
And and as they go along, for somebody to come out of that, of feeling like they're the hero, of the world is against them but they're against the world for the sake of these children, for them to face that fact,
Reality.
that reality that they are actually harming instead of helping, like that's a major mental breakdown right there. Like that's hard.
Yeah, make it make sense. I'm removing these kids because they don't have money, food, shelter, some of these other things, instead of utilizing my resources like I was designed to help them to get into a better place, including some help with education and or this, and that, and helping their situation, and or utilizing other public resources such as food banks, food shelters, all these other things that are available to the public that a lot of religious organizations and other nonprofits go through. We're
Well,
not going to utilize those. We're just going to take your
they
kid.
they will offer them. I don't recommend taking them. Like I was offered all sorts of different options and services, and I said no, thank you, because the more control they had over my life, and the more I was indebted to them, the more control they had over my life, and I was just not willing to give that to them.
Well, and that's the whole point too. Is the point is I don't need your help, and that's the idea. It was supposed to be a voluntary thing, which is not voluntary. Once again,
It's
to
not
even contract with a matter of fact, I mean, with you, if you don't sign or do this, I'm going to hold you hostage. You
correct.
can't go anywhere
Correct.
until you sign this, or we have to figure something out. Unless you choose to give your children to anybody else, which is a Class C felony. So
Oh
you have
yes.
to commit a felony to get out of here with your kids.
Correct.
Even though as soon as we do that, we're going to run to the district attorney's office and say, "Hey, she gave up her rights to the kids, or whoever did," and now charge you with a criminal case, and then use that against you over the CPS case. Turn around and say, "Oh, well, she abandoned her kids, or he or she abandoned their kids." And now they're charged with the killing. Now we need full control, Your Honor, because
Oh
now
yeah.
there's a criminal act involved.
Well,
This
they
is
sure tried.
entrapment,
Oh yeah, they tried.
and it's happening all across the state. It's no wonder that some of those places where they do these things, such as child advocacy centers or places that they have like this, and isn't it funny that they just delete the evidence or hide it, or but they're supposed to be in place. Well, it doesn't work that well. It doesn't do this and that. So if the idea of protecting the children, listen to the irony of this.
It's
If the
not.
idea is to protect the children, which it's not, why would you take away surveillance video and make sure nobody can get to it of the crimes you've committed once you know what actually happened on? Now we take and delete it, and then nobody cares. The
Because
judges don't care. The
the game
magistrates
isn't to
don't care. None
protect
of these.
the child. The
Now
game
hold
is to
on.
protect the caseworker.
To protect the caseworker and the people of the CAC coercing you into a felony. That's a felony within itself. Now,
Correct.
let's go down to this. It's also illegal for them not to have it there, according to the guidelines, the federal guidelines of child advocacy centers and everything else. All interactions between parents and children are to be once again maintained and or kept on record until the youngest child is of the age of 19. Depends on your state and or it's inactive for so many years, blah, 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 blah. That's in their records. But when you can't produce it, and the most you come back with once you send a subpoena, we don't have it, we delete it and admit to it, and nobody cares. But they're all supposed to know, we expect when we go into court, you're supposed to know their rules and guidelines and this and this and that. I shouldn't have to explain which you know you're supposed to be doing.
Correct. But you have to, because they don't
So
care.
the reason they don't do it too is because once they've done it and somebody's pointed it out, now we can't let it out because it affects what? It makes all that evidence inadmissible or usable whatsoever because it's tainted, and they can't admit it because that would throw out all their other cases. So now it's a continued cover up scheme.
Of course. From beginning to end.
Yep.
Because they
So
literally cannot do what they are doing legally. It's
no,
impossible.
constitutionally,
Impossible.
every bit of it, none of it. Why?
Exactly.
Because it's cultural gentrification, no matter any way you put it. Why? Because there's no crime to it. And you can call it whatever you want in civil court. It's not criminal court. You're not giving trials by jury. None of this is done with a jury. This is all done under administrative law. Those administrative law judges that Trump didn't like and the DOJ is going after, now you know some of that stuff they're targeting. Why? Because it's unconstitutional what you're doing. And it's already been admitted by the Ninth Circuit Court. I mean, you guys have already seen it on this show before, or even before, Court of Appeals, where CPS comes in and says, why can't we hire actors? That the Supreme Court says right on there, it is well established that parents have a constitutional right to their children and the upbringing and all that is protected. Then why are you in a state court getting raped over and your children stolen from you? Doesn't make sense. Now let's add the Constitution to it. Any case where it's you against the state is not supposed to be in state court. It is required under the Constitution to eliminate any bias to be in a federal courtroom.
Oh, isn't that
Tell
funny?
me why. Now tell me why every state right now is not in to the point that has crossed the line
I don't know.
of violating the Constitution to treason and sedition. Because it
they have to.
meets the standard. But people are not calling it out for what it is.
Oh, yes,
And
we
they
are.
don't know how to address it. Well, they don't know how to address it properly.
Oh,
There's
but we're
a lot
learning,
of voices,
right, everybody? We're
but
learning.
people, they're chopping away with all this noise we've been making since TikTok, to where I got banned from TikTok platforms, this platform, that platform, chopping away at them. Boy, they get rid of them. They silence them. They get rid of them. We can't have, that's misinformation. It's federal law.
It is.
How is it
federal law.
misinformation?
It's not.
And let alone the states run around, well, it's state law. No, it's a state code.
Yep.
Y'all are lying to people. Well, it's a state law. It's a state law. No, it's a policy, procedure, or code. This state doesn't have laws. Matter of fact, the Constitution of the United States specifically prohibits any state from making a law that is contrary to the Constitution or federal laws.
But circle it
You
back
cannot.
to your original topic. What are we all taught in school? How to follow the rules and stay in line. Don't make waves. Don't ask questions.
Yep.
Raise
You
your
have
hand
been
if
programmed.
you want to speak. Ask
Raise your
permission
hand if you have to go to the bathroom even.
bathroom.
Yeah, can I get a pass? No, you can't. You could do, I mean, all sorts of stuff you've seen through there.
They're giving little kids color cards for behavior. I mean, this is how you are conditioned from beginning to end, because they want you compliant by the time you get here.
We talk a lot about freedoms and this and that in Constitution, and one thing that I discovered today, and this is going to blow your mind. Did you know that the only daughter to the Chinese president was here in America to receive a college education, the one that they hate us the most? Why are they sending their kid here? That went to Harvard.
But I thought Chinese
2010 to
education was
2014.
superior, and that's what we were trying to emulate. Please explain this to me.
Then to explain to me, because it's coming to find out, the other thing that's revealed is several world leaders are sending their children to America to go to higher education in colleges.
But again,
even ones that were against.
That's weird. I guess our secondary education is better than our primary education.
No, it
I
sounds like
thought we
we
were
have an
trying to keep up
issue.
with, at least that's what we were
We
told
have an
when we were
issue.
kids. We were trying to keep up with China because their education system was superior to ours, supposedly.
Then explain to me why his only daughter attended Harvard
I can't. I don't
under a
have that.
false name. And Chinese, yes, Chinese Secret Service followed her around on American soil. And we wonder why our colleges are something, and who knows what propaganda, what
So what
we'll
you're saying
just say
is that
gathering information.
Harvard was going to give his daughter a better education in communism than his own
Then
country.
exactly.
Yikes.
But listen, but the idea, what if it was more than that? What if it was on how to make your colleges more streamlined because Americans accept this shit?
Yeah,
Think
that
about
could
it. How do I get it to where my people don't hate me? Type of control. Because it
I
seems to be working in America
for now.
for
That's
now
the end.
until the Constitution comes back. And let's put it this way, there's only one way this happens. The Constitution, what's happening now is everybody is getting bitch slapped with the Constitution and the reality of what it says. And they don't like it. That's a form of treason. If you're an elected, appointed official, this and that, and you're against the Constitution, you should not be serving in any public office.
Agreed.
Because you're not representing the ideals of this country. You want change? Oh, you do it through this and that. No, this is for the people.
Well,
We, the people. That doesn't mean you come here from another country and then you elect your people and this and you go through that. No, that doesn't align. When you came to this country, you agreed to our Constitution
yes.
and to live under it. And there's a lot of good immigrants out there that came here legally that will fight you because they love this country from where they came from.
Well, I think people confuse freedom of religion to freedom with politics, and they are not the same thing.
That doesn't negate the responsibility. There's still a set of rules, and this needs to be really brought up within these places having Shari court and this that. That's great. But as soon as you violate the constitutional rights of another person by forcing your will or your belief system on them, and they don't want it, that is a crime.
Yes.
And that goes, listen, that goes for, and I'm going to say it, Celtic, Satanism, Christianity, Muslim, all the different religions. You all are under the same boat. You can practice, but so long as you don't violate someone else's constitutional rights, in other words, free will.
Correct.
Now we got a problem.
Freedom with
That's
boundaries.
a criminal act. Freedom. I wish they had put that in their boundaries. Dear God, they don't.
Well,
but they did in a way.
Constitution is a boundary. I mean,
it is an absolute. It is
boundary.
not an option. There is the biggest problem with, especially with the psychological community coming in as much as it is going, yeah, but what if? Can we look at the other side? They're meant to be studied. But once again, you live here, you have to abide by this.
Correct.
So the people that take the classes and become, this, but yet have alliances with other things, that really question some of that, whether or not they're really, hey, you've gone through the classes, this, that, but that's not where your mind and where your soul is with this country. You left your country for a reason. If your intention is to overthrow us or take us over or to force your belief system on there, we're going to have a problem.
Correct.
Because it goes for everybody. And once again, a lot of people say, Christian nation or this or that. Listen, man, when you go in, no matter who you are or what your belief system, where you go and how you think and how you make decisions is all based on who you are as a whole, including your religion. And there's a lot of people out there that says, well, it says separation of church and state. Show me where. Because it doesn't exist.
Oh, it's a letter from Thomas Jefferson to somebody, I
And the
forget who.
Federalists, yeah, it's in the Federalist level. Like I said, a lot of those things, and they discuss that. Should we have that because of what they dealt with in England? Because of the Church of England that had so much power for so long within the government, there was no form of government. There was the church. The church ran everything. That's
That's why
documented
they
through
had so
history.
many wars, is when the churches went to war with each other.
And they still go to war with each other today. Every religion, hey, that one ain't right, this one ain't right, that ain't even a religion. Oh, well, God doesn't this and that. Those are your personal beliefs. But when you start forcing your personal beliefs into politics or the way we live, that's what we have got to understand and come back into the thing. Even though I want or I believe, is it constitutionally sound? And we need to start asking ourselves that question. No, you're stepping on my rights for this. But once you go to, like, we've been talking about the dumbing down. Yes, Jonathan, the dumbing down is where we don't know our rights and you don't know where to stand and you don't know
Mhm.
where the boundary lines are. So they're crossing them, nor are we drawing the boundary lines.
Well,
There's the other part.
I think that's why the founding fathers wrote the Constitution the way they did, because they are boundaries.
Hmm?
They are boundaries. You cannot infringe upon somebody's right to free speech. You cannot infringe upon somebody's Second Amendment. Specifically, the government is not allowed to infringe on these.
Not
That's the point.
even a court. The only way they can do that is in interest of national security. Only
Correct.
reason they can silence you.
So that's, I mean, it's a whole list of boundaries, but I think the reason that they suspended the religion out of it, except to say that you have the freedom of religion, was because now your religion cannot impose upon my religion, but we all must respect each other's boundaries. Freedom with boundaries. It's a
You
beautiful
do your
concept.
thing, I do my thing. If we come together every once in a while in public, then we
Yeah.
have public rules that we act accordingly.
But
But
see,
what
the thing is,
happens in my home is none of your fucking business. And it's not the state's business.
well, I think that should have, and probably did originally, extend to how we educate our children
Mm-hmm.
and how we live.
100% that's in there.
Oh, exactly. So now all of a sudden you have a system that infringes on all these rights, because since everybody else has to do it this way, I mean, even homeschoolers are regulated in certain states on how they have to do things. And like, it's just distressing how well the systems work together
Oh, the
to
other beautiful one that I love
infringe on
too
the
is with for
boundaries.
the schooling thing we went through was the GAL saying, "Hey, the kids just got in public school midterm reports. You homeschool, I need the same thing from you. I'm going to hold you to the same standard as public schools."
Yes.
How illegal and unconstitutional is that?
Oh, and she did not like it when I said, "Yeah, we don't do that."
Mm-hmm.
Like,
And what did she threaten? What happened when she threatened you with it? I'm going to do what?
well, thankfully, I had a lawyer that stood behind me, but eventually, I think when we did so,
What
under
was
the
the threat though? The point was is there was a threat after that that said, what? If you don't comply,
probably,
I'm going to go to the judge and I'm going to have your kids taken away for non-compliance.
oh, probably, I don't know. I had so many threats throughout this whole thing. I don't even remember them all.
I was just like, you're going to do that? I go, and that's what I was telling you. That's why homeschoolers have this thing called HSLDA. Why don't you inform the people about what that is for those who don't know?
Homeschool Legal Defense. So HSLDA is a conglomeration, if that's the right word,
Membership driven.
of lawyers. It's membership driven. There's a lawyer for every state. So when we do run into issues with CPS and other entities over our education, sometimes it's a school, sometimes it's CPS, then we can call in and the lawyers will help us figure out that mess.
Straighten them the hell out and educate
Yeah,
them.
oh
You cannot do this.
yeah. Anything from CPS showed up at my door and they have a problem with me homeschooling, to this college won't allow my child in because they were homeschooled, even though everything is in order. Like, and some of the things are absolutely ridiculous, but they are very huge advocates for us. And in fact, if ever it's something anybody wants to look into doing for themselves, I highly, highly, highly recommend. In fact, everybody will tell you this, go to their website first, because they cover all the state laws and regulations and will tell you where to start, and they'll help you get going.
Now, we've covered public education, we've covered hero complex and everything else. Now let's make sure that we're making one thing clear. We do not agree with that does not negate their responsibility for breaking the law or making bad decisions, whether they chose or did not choose to further their education, to realize what they were doing was a criminal act, that you're still responsible, regardless of what it is, for the crimes you've committed against the people, the families, the children, the household, and this country. That does not negate your responsibility of what was done. You can claim, once again, the old saying is, ignorance of the law does not negate your responsibility for the crimes you've committed, is what they'll tell you in court.
Correct.
So one thing we have to understand, we're trying to get you the reasoning behind some of these caseworkers to explain. That's why some caseworkers come off as being so soft, so concerned, and then others are a certain way, and others are more demanding. They're going to be up in your face, and others are real soft and real nice and this and that. It's all coercion techniques, regardless of what it is, to get into your home, get into your family, and nose around. Unless there's a crime you can charge me with, and part of that is I will not participate. It's the choice you have as a family, children, and everything else under your constitutional rights. I can invoke the Fifth Amendment. I will not produce any papers. I will not take and produce this. I will not do this and this and that. You will not help me. You will not take and use evidence against me that I provide to you to self-incriminate or for you to twist against me. It's illegal. Your rule is to do it on your own, within your own means, without my house, without all this other stuff, and respect my constitutional rights. There's the problem we have with CPS. You don't follow the constitutional rights of the family, the children, the parents, none of them.
They don't respect them at all.
That's the big problem.
And if
when
you
the time comes, you will be held accountable.
Yes. True.
So, well, we're coming up on that. Let's see if we can over here in the back. But I think people don't understand what's been going on, how it's been going on. There are alternatives, why they're attacking these people. And you heard it from the lady herself. You did hear that she said she was part of President Reagan's council for the Department of Education.
Yeah.
I had access to everything. And did you hear what she said? If the look on her face after, if you only knew what else I knew. That lady would definitely be one on your checklist to go down some rabbit holes with that woman.
Oh, for sure.
A lot of resource, a lot of meat, and a lot of evidence she has. And once again, knowledge is power, 100%. Sharon, thanks once again. I appreciate you joining me for yet another week.
Love.
All right. Guys, it's been great. We hope to catch us again, hopefully next week. Once again, we're kind of in the limbo status. We will update you the best we can. Like I said, our producer knows what's going on. Once again, to clarify, any guests that we ever take and have on our show, we make sure that we have conversations. We vet our guests. We make sure that we're staying on topic, and we're only going to address that. That's the format of this show. Other shows in the CPS Breaking News Network has different formats. This is where we're at. We have this because we want to stay on topic. We want to get some of this conversation out. We want to get that knowledge and education to you. And there's only a short amount of time that we have to do it. Guys, thanks again. Hopefully we'll catch you next week. Babe, I'll see you on the flip side. And,
all right, then. Night, everybody.
So, guys, thanks again for joining us. Join us again next week and join us with our other shows in the CPS Breaking News Network. We appreciate you 100%. share, educate, share this out. Our message is getting out. Beware of people trying to divide us, and they're going to do it in every case. Just because it's not the same message you have doesn't mean it's helping somebody out there. Let's keep that in mind. Guys, have a great evening, and thanks again, and stay tuned. There's more to come.
In the United States, CPS makes upwards of $3 billion per day on trafficking and selling our children. The corruption may start with the caseworker, but goes through the judicial system, passing the governor through the Senate and into the White House. The entire system has a hand in the business known as CPS.
Our children are stolen every minute of a 24-hour day. They are being robbed of their innocence, their trust, their happiness. As parents, we are isolated and betrayed by a government we trust. States are balancing budgets on kids' lives. Only 12% of the kids taken will be reunified. Title IV funding is being riveted with fraud.
We need to stop CPS and abolish CPS.com is leading the way. Join us.